It finally happened. Touchdowns with an S on Thursday Night Football. What is going on, everybody? We finally had a good Thursday night game. Pick sixes, DeAndre Hopkins, Benjamin, Kyler Murray playing his last game before Call of Duty release. What more could you ask for? See, Devin doesn't even know what to ask for.
I don't know, back-to-back weeks of watchable football, which we might get. We're actually looking at I have a gnat in my office. It's going to be wreaking havoc for the next hour or two. But no, it was a good game. They scored more points combined in this game than every other week combined of Thursday Night Football, if I'm correct. It was a barn burner, to say the least. The Saints are banged up, and we've known this for a while now, but I didn't expect the Saints to drop a literal. They allowed 25 points in the second quarter, which effectively meant this game is over before it ever really started. The fact that the Saints came back a little bit is I commend them for that. Andy Dalton for all of the interceptions he threw. He had one more touchdown on top of it, so it was an ugly game. You don't want either of the teams to win. But Andy Dalton didn't put his team in the position to win, and Kyler Murray didn't mess up anything to the point where his team couldn't win.
Yeah, 28-14 at halftime, 2 pick sixes, a minute apart, roughly. It's not ideal, but it did create one of the best videos ever of the frustrated Andy Dalton as the defender flies through the air. So that'll always live in our hearts. But yeah, the Saints are really banged up. They don't even have their own first-round pick, which blows my freaking mind that the Eagles have that spot. But the Saints are just really probably in one of the worst spots possible. They're going to be a terrible team if they can't get healthy. Michael Thomas, we thought this was going to be the resurgence. Jarvis Landry hasn't played. Chris Olave had an okay game. Chris Olave, 7 receptions, 106 yards, but no touchdowns, unfortunately. 2 of them went to Jawan Johnson and another one to Rashid Shaheed and another one to Taysom Hill. Because Taysom Hill does have to score a touchdown every week that we don't start him. So that's just how that works. The Cardinals, Kyler Murray didn't really have to do a whole lot besides pepper DeAndre Hopkins with a bunch of targets. He got 10 receptions for 103 yards, but Kyler Murray only threw for 204 yards and a touchdown. Benjamin ran in for a touchdown. Keontae Ingram ran in for a touchdown. Khalil Herbert just ran in for a touchdown. I just ran in for a touchdown.
She get a touchdown. We get a touchdown. Wumbo gets a touchdown.
But yeah, for this game, it was good to see like a back and forth for a little bit until the Cardinals kind of just ran away with it. The Saints did their best, and Andy Dalton did his best to get his team back in it, but it was all for naught. The Cardinals really needed this win more than anything because now they're 3-4. Call of Duty opens next week on Friday, so Kyler Murray's going to disappear. So that might be the last win we see for the Cardinals this season.
Well, this is what the Cardinals were hoping was going to happen coming into the season. Obviously, their start isn't as great as they expected. But to be fair, the rest of their division is not going as expected. So at 3-4, they are in a position as to where they could turn this season around and possibly win their own division. I don't expect it to happen. But D-Hop is back. And James Conner's still out, and that's a problem. But with D-Hop back, we have a perennial all-pro type target for Kyler Murray to throw to. And the best years of Kyler Murray have been predicated by having DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup. So with Hollywood Brown on the shelf, D-Hop is slotting right back in as the number one guy out there. And I think if Rondale Moore and A.J. Green can kind of hold center for a bit until Hollywood comes back, I think they could actually tread water to a point where they might make this thing interesting. Because even against a bad Saints team, they allowed 34 points, which is concerning. I've never liked their defense, but their defense did step up. They are good enough to take care of opportunities and maximize opportunities. So I don't expect this Cardinals defense to get 3 turnovers on a weekly basis, but it sure does help.
Yeah. Moving on to the Browns and the Ravens. The Ravens really tried to do it again. They really tried to lose their 6th straight at home or something like that, blow another 10-point lead, but they just snuck out against the Browns. Lamar Jackson 9 for 16 and 120 yards. I didn't realize his stats were that bad. Good Lord Almighty.
You
Gus
would think
Edwards
this
is
was
back.
the Bears. You'd think this was the Bears playing with 16 passing attempts for Lamar Jackson. I don't know what John Harbaugh's doing. Like, I get it. Your weapons are hurt. Mark Andrews really only registered 1 catch. But at the same time, you have one of the top 10 guys at this position in the league. He's won an MVP, and it wasn't just because he rushed for 1,000 yards. If that were the case to win MVP, he would have 3 straight. 2, and then he wouldn't have got it last year because injuries. But you get what I'm saying. Like this, this game was weird, and they won, but there was a phantom false start play against the Browns that cost them some points. It's not a good look for Baltimore right now.
And it didn't. Like, it led to a longer field goal, but that field goal ended up, I believe, getting tipped anyways. So there's no real, like, you could argue maybe he kicked it lower to get it out more, but the field goal ended up not being short by any means. So
the penalty happens, it branches reality. Anything could happen on any down, but still the refs missing blatant calls. It's ridiculous that nobody on the line moved whatsoever. If I were a Browns fan, I would be pissed off. Obviously, you can't blame it fully upon the ref's call because, yes, the ball did get tipped. But in the same vein, it's momentum. Like, I'm not saying that a false start penalty is going to psych your kicker out of being able to kick a game-winning field goal or tying field goal, but shit matters. It's a literal game of inches. And so while, yes, the Ravens blocked the kick, it's just more pressure having to kick it from farther out. It's the compounding of all these different elements. And who's to say it gets blocked if they're kicking from that shorter distance?
Yeah. Yeah. And just to, cover this for fantasy purposes, Mark Andrews did not record any catches.
He had
rushed for 4 yards.
Yes, as someone that rosters Mark Andrews, what the fuck? Lamar Jackson sealed the game on a fucking quick pitch play that Mark Andrews was under center on. Like, John Harbaugh gets way too cute with this offense, and I get it, they're 4-3. But and if John Harbaugh didn't have a Super Bowl, it would be a different conversation to have.
Yeah.
It's just not good right now. Last year they didn't have a defense. His corners were all hurt, so they were going for 2 constantly. This year, they're playing down to competition in ways that I didn't expect them to with the health on their side. Granted, the health isn't fully on their side, but you just hate to see it. Like, Baltimore's 1 step forward and 2 steps back. I can't confidently say to roll with them over the next couple of weeks because, honestly, I have not been fully convinced of this team since about week 2. And even that game against the Bengals didn't fully show up. Either let Lamar cook because your defense is not holding teams in a way that you expected in the past. It's just genuinely confusing what's going on. Because if I'm Baltimore, yes, Cleveland is going to control the clock, but Lamar can outperform Jacoby Brissett. There's no reason why Jacoby has 11 more passing attempts than Lamar Jackson.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like the Ravens aren't a team that has to get cute like they did with the Mark Andrews pitch and the Mark Andrews rush. It's like you still have a good team. Did Rashad Bateman play? I can't remember.
He did.
He
led
did.
the team in receiving. He had 4 catches, yeah.
I mean, but Mark Andrews, I don't see how many targets he got. I would assume he got a few. But when Mark Andrews isn't getting catches, that's the true problem. You don't have to get cute. You have a good team. You have Lamar Jackson. He absolutely was destroying the world the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. And all of a sudden you feel the need to get cute because you keep blowing leads because your offense just goes dormant in the second half. That kind of seems the problem is that they're just super dormant in the second half. They have been all year.
They haven't adjusted.
They scored 10 points in the second half, but that basically barely matched the Browns, and the Browns easily could have tied it, and who knows what would have happened after that. And for the Browns, Jacoby Brissett is who we thought he was.
He's not costing them games yet. That's the thing. Like this week, I
think he has a little bit, but I don't think he cost them this game per se.
Yeah, not this week. Justin Fields is running all over the Patriots. That is not really surprising. No, I completely agree. One thing I learned from this week, Nick Chubb is still your favorite running back. Death, taxes, and 5 yards of carry for this man. He is an absolute unit. the Chubb and Hunt thing has to continue, but Jacoby has to supplement them a little bit because Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb can score 2 or 3 touchdowns a week. But if Jacoby's not finding the end zone once per week, it's very hard for this Ravens team to consistently put up the points they need to win games. Because
Hunt should be traded at this point?
Hunt, if you can get a package for him, sure. They have Dearness Johnson in the wings behind Kareem Hunt. And whenever they were both hurt last year, Johnson had a really good stint as their starter. Granted, I think he was running against the Chargers at one point. But I don't know. Kareem Hunt, he's effectively going to be a rental. I don't know if he's under contract much longer. He's older. I'd love to see Kareem Hunt go somewhere where he could be the feature back. Obviously, whenever he was a feature back in Kansas City, he was one of the best the league had to offer. And what happened, and he ended up becoming a Cleveland Brown. So,
yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent after this season, and it'll be his age 28 season next year.
He's not going to re-sign in Cleveland. He is far too talented a running back to not be on. They cannot afford to bring him back because Deshaun's now on the books. Their offensive line is locked up. Nick Chubb, I think he just got an extension. If not, he needs an extension. Their defense is going to need to be extended. This team has far higher needs than that of the backup running back because they already have a guy that can give you 85% of a Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I completely agree. For the Ravens, they get the Bucs on Thursday. We'll talk about that soon. So that'll be interesting for them. They do have an easy schedule on the books, so they've gotten through the first 7 games at 4-3. They're right with the Bengals, so they're in an okay spot. It's just they didn't really take a hold of the division when they had the chance to because they've blown these games.
Brady come back. I don't know what to say about this game besides Mike Evans. You have to catch that ball. The thing is, this game, the tone could completely change within the matter of like one play because it was the very start of the game. I don't know how, genuinely, after I saw that drop, I was like, this is going to be a weird day because Mike Evans doesn't have the best hands in the NFL, but he has some pretty sure hands. I don't expect him to drop many balls, especially in that scenario. Yeah. But if you needed a way to explain away this day for the Tampa Bay Bucs, that play was it. Because Evans went from 9 receptions, 96 yards to what should have been 10 with 150 yards with that play and a touchdown. So, as I said earlier last week, the Panthers were in this really, really cool area of our coach just got fired. And if there's one thing that's more powerful than a Hall of Fame quarterback and one of the best treasure troves of receivers in the league, it's playing with your interim coach. Players just step up for him. It was the Bisaccia effect last year, and now we're seeing it with the new head coach out in Carolina. You fire the coach, the players, they show up that next Sunday. So kudos to the Panthers. Bucs, I don't know what happened. Then again, nobody knows what's happening in the NFC South. The Bucs are
4 straight losses for the Tampa Bay Bucs.
And they're still the first seed in the NFC South, tied with the first and second are all knotted up. You've got Bucs, Falcons tied for the lead, and then you have Panthers and Saints fighting it out bar style for the number 2 spot. It's the ugliest division in football. I don't like the
think about this.
Any of the
think
teams.
About this. The Panthers are obviously having a fire sale. We'll talk about the McCaffrey trade when we get to the Niners. And if they beat the Falcons next week and the Bucs lose to the Ravens, the Panthers are a first-place team. Just think about that for a second. That is fucking wild. And to move over to Tom Brady a little bit, it's easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, you should have retired. You should have done this. He should have done this. It is the addiction of competitiveness, and I think it's finally weighing in on him. And I think, obviously, he's carrying the world on his shoulders right now with whatever personal shit he's got going on. Divorce probably isn't fun for anybody, regardless of how much money you have or this and that. And, he led the league in passing yards last year. He could have really left, being, the guy. He didn't win a Super Bowl, sure, but leading the league in passing yards at the age of 44, at the age of 43 is pretty fucking great to me. But now we're kind of feeling. I don't think anybody feels bad for Brady per se. The guy who has 7 rings.
So for me, what's happening right now is Brady came back for a team that doesn't exist anymore. The head coach that won a Super Bowl with him, Bruce Arians, retired in the offseason. Leftwich got the endorsement, and Leftwich is doing a fine job with the talent that he has. This team is older than everybody else in the division. This team is more injured than everybody else in the division, and that's saying a lot looking at the Saints. Because, yes, the Saints have issues with the skill positions primarily, and also Lattimore being out didn't help this week. But Brady's offensive line, before the even tip-off of the season, is shredded. He's missing so many key pieces to what was integral to making this Buccaneers offense work. They went from having an attack that was balanced with Leonard Fournette being able to rush through the tackles, go through zone schemes. Now we're seeing why you invest in an offensive line and what happens whenever your offensive line falls to bits. Leonard Fournette had 8 carries for 19 yards. He's starting to be outproduced by Rachaad White. The touches were almost equal, 8 carries to 6 carries. You can't win in this league if you can't balance the run and the pass, especially with a quarterback that is as immobile as Tom Brady. Brady cannot escape the pocket. Brady has to sit in the pocket and watch plays develop, and that's fine and dandy. But teams know that they can send minimal fronts to attack Tom Brady now with this depleted offensive line and drop people back in coverage. Because I don't care if Mike Evans is double teamed, he's double teamed. And yes, Godwin is great, but if you throw your best slot corner on him, he's going to have to fight for it. And then you're basically
Julio
saying
Jones hasn't played in 3 or 4 weeks.
It's Russell Gage and Kate Otten versus the world, and Brady's time in the pocket is getting shorter week by week. This is the
I will say, shout out to Kate Otten for having 4 for 60 something.
Yeah, good on him for being a viable tight end option in fantasy for a week. But the Buccaneers are in trouble. Yes, the Panthers suck, and the Saints are terrible. The Falcons threw the ball 13 times in a fucking blowout loss in the second half. It's like none of these teams want to win besides Tampa Bay. But Tampa Bay just can't do it right now. And that's the most perplexing thing about this division, because the winner of the division could have a top 10 pick in the draft this year with the way that it's playing out. And that is insane to me.
And let's talk about, you just mentioned it. Let's talk about that. The Falcons were down by 10 pretty quick. They threw the ball 14 times all game.
Oh, I stand corrected. 13 times all game.
13 times all game when they were down by 10 pretty early. At what point you spent a first-round draft pick on a tight end who's supposed to be generational talent? You spent a first-round pick on Drake London, obviously really talented. How in the hell are you throwing the ball 13 times in a game? I don't care if it's Marcus Mariota. If you're going to spend the draft picks on these guys to have a better offense, you got to throw the fucking ball. It's ridiculous.
So Arthur Smith, for anyone that doesn't know, his father is actually the founder and chairman of FedEx. They're big on the ground, as you know, delivering packages to millions of Americans and around the world. Arthur's committing to the bit. It got his father extremely rich caring about the ground. But holy shit, Arthur. I'm calling a spade a spade. This organization has traded away the best players they have had over the last 30 years for little to nothing. And they've drafted players that should project to be the next great Atlanta Falcons. And they're not fucking using them. And that's the biggest problem I have. Because it'd be one thing if, I don't know, Prime Todd Gurley was in your backfield. Or, I don't know, Cordero Patterson was healthy. But whenever the player that's getting the most touches is a third-round rookie in Tyler Algier that you weren't even sure could start before Patterson got hurt, whenever you have the highest drafted tight end since 2000 and a guy you took in the top 10 at receiver in Drake London, combining for 4 receptions and 18 yards. I don't care.
It's a joke.
How badly you want to establish the run, you have to throw the ball. You're not going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals with 50 yards and a touchdown from Tyler Algier.
Especially when you're in a negative game script.
Every game script for them is negative. I don't care. Even if they win, it's negative.
Yeah, but Arthur Smith shouldn't have a job at this point. This is a complete. I mean, He's losing, so that's good for them, I guess. But they're also not losing as regular because they beat the Niners last week. Like what?
Does Smith know that Derrick Henry isn't his running back? Because that's the only explanation I could think of. Like his bread was buttered in Tennessee because he gave Derrick Henry the ball a ridiculous amount of times, which Vrabel has kept. He's kept the bid up out in Tennessee with Derrick Henry running the ball 25 times a game, but he can do that. Derrick Henry's not human. Derrick Henry is the anomaly. He is the standard deviation. He does not make sense. Derrick Henry is just built differently. And Arthur Smith, air it out, man. You have nothing to lose. This organization likes you. You had a decent enough year last year. Stop trying to make something happen and look to develop the guys that are going to matter 10 years down the road. Because I don't think Tyler Algier is going to be the starting running back for the Falcons in 5 years. And if Kyle Pitts isn't the starting tight end for the Falcons in the next 5 years, something went horribly wrong. And as Elijah Moore highlighted out in New York, players like getting the ball. Whenever they don't, they'll find somewhere that will get them the ball. It's just how it works.
Kyle Pitts easily has the path to be one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Kyle Pitts is a wide receiver that plays tight end. That's how talented he is.
And he's 22 years old. So he practically has 20 years to play the game.
I'd give him 15. Maybe, tight end's tough.
But still, 15 years.
Incredibly young.
Be done at 37, and you could be in the top 5 of receiving yards. You could be in the top 5 of receptions, touchdowns. You could be easily the greatest tight end of all time, especially because of how talented you are. And you got 3 catches for 9 yards because Arthur Smith is your head coach and says, this isn't fantasy football. We're trying to win games. Well, Arthur, you're 3-4 and you got your asses kicked by the Bengals. So what's next?
Joe Burrow had almost triple the completions compared to Marcus Mariota's attempts in this game. Joe Mixon had more carries than Marcus Mariota had attempts in this game. If you combine the receptions from Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase, it's more than the attempts that Marcus Mariota had. You combine Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it's more. It's insanity. They literally went out and got Marcus Mariota. They chose to bring him in, which is the thing that really is enthralling me the most. If you didn't think this guy could play quarterback for your organization, why did you sign him? There were plenty of arms out there this offseason that you could have picked up to feed the ball to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. But no, I don't understand it. I think Marcus Mariota is worthy of at least 20 attempts a game. I don't see a world where he's throwing the ball less than Justin Fields on a weekly basis. It just does not make sense. Maybe the Falcons are having this whole Matt Ryan's benched for the remainder of the season. Did not know that. That's
you hadn't heard that?
I heard he was benched indefinitely, but I didn't realize it was like that serious. Back to my point, though.
Yeah, that'll be something to talk about.
It's just insane to me. It's like it has to be like that Dolphin situation from earlier last year where he was telling Flores to purposefully lose games. Hopefully the Falcons have tighter lips because if this comes out, it's going to be ugly and it's not going to look good. Because I have no other explanation besides the fact that they're just trying to tank. And they're not good at it either. They should have tanked last year, and they literally had like a 500 record or something. It was insanity.
For the Bengals, they did their thing. It's a typical Bengals day.
Jamar Chase is a monster. Joe Burrow back to being Joe Cool. Their awful start. They played a really great defense in Dallas, and they've been lost to Baltimore in a tough one, but the Bengals aren't going to beat themselves most weeks.
Yeah. So this is where I'm at with this. We beat the Lions 24-6. Did Dak Prescott light up the worst defense in football? No. Did he have to? No. He went 19 for 25, 207 yards and a TD. The man did rush things on 5 weeks of not playing or throwing a football. Tony Pollard, 12 carries, 83 yards. Zeke, 15 carries, 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. Noah Brown had a fumble in the red zone, or we could have had another touchdown. This game was a little close for a little bit, but the defense did what it was supposed to do. It got turnovers, especially Micah Parsons had an insane rundown to get a guy at the 1, and then DeMarcus Lawrence forced a fumble at the 1. Like, this defense is elite. It is insane what they're doing right now, and I haven't seen it in my tenure as a Cowboys fan. I've never known what it's like to have a good defense. It's always been shootouts, and I've always thought that's why Tony Romo got flack, because he just was always playing catch-up. Is he the greatest thing to ever happen? No, but I think he got a lot of flack because he was always playing from behind. And he throws 3 straight touchdowns and then throws a pick on the last drive, all of a sudden it's a choke. This is what life has been. But now it's just trying to keep up a lead. Here's my question for you, Devin. Everyone's saying Dak didn't do this, Dak didn't do that. What is the difference if Dak does play action, takes those 2 TDs away from Zeke, and has 3 touchdowns? Does that change anything in your eyes if Dak has 3 touchdowns compared to 1 and Zeke has none? Zeke got him basically on like the 2 or 3 yard line. He just punched him in like from the 1. Because we got down there.
It doesn't make any difference. The Cowboys shouldn't be concerned about how they're winning. They should just be concerned about winning at this point. They're in the best case scenario for a team that has been as hurt as they have been. The Los Angeles Chargers would like to enter the chat in terms of dealing with injuries and how the outlook can change. The Cowboys lost their $300 million man in Dak Prescott in the first week of the season. They're currently 5-2. And one of those losses wasn't a start by Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush in this defense, Cooper Rush, Kellen Moore in this defense really kept this team afloat. I'm not going to say Cooper Rush is a bad quarterback. Cooper Rush is a backup. There's a reason why Cooper Rush is on the Dallas Cowboys. There's plenty of teams that need an upgraded quarterback, and there's a reason why Cooper Rush isn't the guy they've called. Cooper Rush runs the plays that Kellen Moore designs. The problem with Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott is immensely more talented than Cooper Rush. So Kellen Moore feels that he can run plays and schemes for Dak that he simply cannot with Cooper Rush, resulting in a far more dynamic but higher risk offense. And the thing with Cooper Rush and your run in Dallas the last 6 weeks is the efficiency of the offense and the just overall dominance of this defense. Because Dak Prescott can lead a very efficient offense year in and year out. Every year he's been healthy, it's top 10 minimum. And the only reason people are making complaints about the Dak Prescott Cooper Rush thing right now is just based upon the contracts. Everyone's so caught up in, Cooper Rush is winning. Yeah, Cooper Rush is winning, and he's making a lot less money to do it.
And
here's Cooper Rush is not winning the game. Cooper Rush is not losing is the problem.
Why is it only good when Cooper Rush wins? So when Cooper Rush wins, it's like, Cooper Rush wins. And then when Dak goes out and wins, it goes, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. What does it matter? The point of the game is to go out and win the football game. Dak only had to put up 7 points all day if he wanted to. We put up 24. There's no, he should have put up 40. What does it matter? There's only one defense in the league that's given up less points than the Cowboys. That's the Buffalo Bills. And they've had a bye. But Buffalo's only given up 81 points, so they're definitely going to hold that spot for a little while. Dallas is giving up 104 after this week, but they're second in points allowed. This is one of the best defenses in the league, and you're telling me Dak has to do more? But Cooper Rush didn't have to do more. So when Cooper Rush does just enough, it's wonderful. But when Dak just does enough, like you said, it's a contract.
The thing about Dak Prescott, I'm going to be upfront honest with you. The thing about Dak Prescott is he has a star on the side of his helmet. Dak Prescott is effectively he's effectively Kirk Cousins in Texas. They are the same quarterback if you look at the stats. Just the raw data, they are the same exact quarterback, aside from the fact that Dak can show up in a primetime game a bit more often than Kirk does. But stat for stat, they are very, very, very similar. And they both receive a lot of hate. And I think a lot of the Kirk hate came from the fact that Mike Zimmer's a shitty head coach. And he could not help himself from losing games. And I think Dak's had the problem of playing for Jason Garrett and now Mike McCarthy. Are they both the best quarterbacks on the planet? No way in hell. Fat chance. But they are better than at least half of the quarterbacks that start in the NFL. And that's the biggest thing. So whenever Cooper Rush got some shine, there's a reason why he's not starting anymore. Dak Prescott is worth the money because there's far worse you can be off whenever it comes to your quarterback position.
Yeah.
And we see it every year. There are 32 teams and there are 32 starting quarterbacks, but realistically, there's about 18 starters in the NFL at any given time. So, while yes, Cooper Rush played extremely well in Dak's stead, Cooper Rush at his best is a worse version of Jacoby Brissett in terms of the scope of what he can do.
I mean, being 5-2 is fucking great. Love being 5-2 with our starter only playing 2 games. That's great. And
you guys
obviously
you guys lost to Philadelphia, which is arguably the best team in the NFC right now, and it's not even a hard argument. You lost to the Eagles by effectively margins, genuinely by 9, by a score and a field goal, a score and a safety, with Cooper Rush throwing 3 picks, if I'm correct.
3.
That is
throwing 3 picks and then going for it on our own 30 and not getting it.
The Eagles are a better team currently than the Cowboys because Jalen Hurts and what their offense can do, but I don't think there's a single better defense in football comparatively to the Dallas Cowboys today. Micah Parsons is probably the best defender in the NFL right now. He could have won Defensive Player of the Year last year, and I expect him to win it this year if the defense holds like it is. Trevon Diggs is falling off comparatively to his pace last year, but he's still playing a good back end for the secondary. And for all the shit Leighton Vander Esch got over the last 5 years, this is why you keep him around. He's very talented, but he's not supposed to be the perennial be-all end-all for your defense. He is a great support linebacker.
I mean, it was literally what Sean Lee was. Sean Lee was immensely talented but couldn't stay on the field. I think Leighton Vander Esch is immensely talented, and he just hasn't been able to stay on the field. He's gotten major injuries, and it's been tough for him, and he's a little slower because of them, and you see it. But Micah Parsons has really picked that up for everybody. DeMarcus Lawrence has been a monster.
Massive.
Osoa, oh God,
Just call him OO at this point. Number 97.
Even our defensive tackles, everywhere's been good. We're rushing the quarterback.
Yep.
I haven't seen that in a long time. Trayvon Diggs went from opportunist to not lockdown corner, but he's not getting blown out a whole lot this year so far. He's actually held down Jamar Chase fairly well. He held down Mike Evans okay. He's done pretty well. Are the interceptions not there? Sure. But if he's not giving up yards, what does it matter?
The thing with the NFC East that'll be the problem for you guys is just how many wins these teams are getting to start off the season. The Giants have a better record than you currently. But the NFC East might have 3 playoff teams this year, and I think they're going to have 3 playoff teams this year. The schedule is not hard moving forward for any of the top 3 teams in this division, and the Commanders suck, so they're going to get automatic wins against the Commanders. And I think the Cowboys are good enough to beat the Giants, and I think if Dak's healthy, it's going to be a toss-up between the Eagles and the Cowboys because the Eagles have to lose at some point. If the Eagles just run the table and go undefeated going into the playoffs, I cannot pick them to win the Super Bowl. That's just how it works because it takes getting punched in the mouth to really be the best version of the team that you are going to be. Because if you haven't learned enough from the regular season, you are destined to fall victim to the inadequacies that were developed throughout that regular season. Yeah, Detroit's offense is lost. Amon-Ra St. Brown went out early with a not concussion. The protocol failed him in that sense. And DeAndre Swift hasn't played for the 5th week straight. So Jared Goff, he'll make mistakes. And with a defense like Dallas, those mistakes are very costly.
Yeah, for Detroit, they're just kind of in a bad spot of their defense is terrible. They went up against another elite defense that just swarmed Jared Goff. Like you said, the protocol kept Amon-Ra St. Brown out the way the protocol is now. DeAndre Swift, arguably their best playmaker next to Amon-Ra St. Brown, has not played.
Yep.
The defense, the offense is just not fully healthy. And they have Jamison Williams coming at some point. So they have a boost, but being able to keep your opponent, to 20 points so you can score 25 is going to be tough for them.
1,000%.
They can't keep getting away with it.
Oh, they can and they will. Go ahead. Just lead this one off because I have a lot to say.
I watched most of this game. Wow, that was a terrible sentence. I watched most of this game. Daniel Jones, 19 for 30, 202 yards and a touchdown, 11 carries and 107 yards. Saquon Barkley, 24 carries and 110 yards. Darius Slayton, 3 for 58. Wan'Dale Robinson, 6 for 50. They did what they've been doing all season. They've been doing just enough. And Daniel Jones is not fumbling the ball at an alarming rate. What's it doing? It's winning them games. Big shock, not turning over the ball wins you games. But here's where I have the problem. It's finally Travis Etienne season. Even during this game, James Robinson got 0 touches. And Travis Etienne went 14 carries for 114 yards. So finally they give him carries when he's averaging 7 to 8 yards a carry already. He had 1 reception for 5 yards, but he got his first NFL touchdown. He almost had 2, but he fumbled. But happens. Here's my problem, and this is just going to be the long list of analytics. The Jaguars were up. They were up 17 to 10, I believe, if I remember right, because I think an extra point got missed or something like that in this game. But they were up by a touchdown. And on their own 20, they decided to go for it on 4th and 1 and didn't get there. There is literally 0 reason to not go up by 2 scores. I just do not understand this analytics crap. The Giants have notoriously made insanely good second half adjustments all year long and won the game in the second half most of the time. And you don't go up. You don't take the points when you have them. I have multiple head coaches I'm going to drop this on tonight, and I just don't get it. Doug Peterson cost them this game. This isn't even the right score, is it? No, it is. But, I remember what I was going to say now. The Jaguars should have had 20 points. They should have taken the field goal. They should have been at 20 points. They made it down there and almost got a touchdown. They were a yard away, an inch away from a touchdown to win the game. But instead, you could have just kicked the field goal and gone to overtime. I don't know if the Jaguars win in overtime, but just not having the chance to go to overtime is what drives me nuts. I do not understand not taking the points when you're already a 2-5 team. There is no reason to get cute. You are on the up and up. You do have the talent. This is a team that I felt like the Jaguars could have beaten. And they could have if Doug Peterson didn't get greedy. And I'm sick and tired of these head coaches getting greedy. I could go on for days, but I know you have a lot to say.
This is just Jacksonville. Jacksonville's incredibly young. This is a team that we said at the start of the year is going to be very competitive in terms of playing good football games. They're in flux as well. James Robinson, if you didn't hear, now you're going to hear it. He's been traded to the New York Jets, and we'll get into why that happened whenever we talk about the Jets. But this team is now rolling with Travis Etienne as the main back, and they just couldn't find the end zone in a way that they really needed to, and that's partially shown in the play calling by Peterson and not going for the field goal. I think he was pressing for the touchdown because, yes, there are plenty of teams in this league where you can kick field goals and win the game. The Giants right now, I don't believe, are one of those teams. After that Packers matchup where Saquon and that offense were just able to march down the field and get points, it's really weird to say it about the Giants, but if you want to beat the Giants, you have to score touchdowns. Look at the Cowboys whenever they beat the Giants. They weren't just kicking field goals with Maher. They were literally going down the field and scoring touchdowns. It's just the way it has to work for these guys. And no shame to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This Giants defense is incredibly good comparatively to how it was last year. And Daniel Jones accorded for 2 touchdowns. This Jaguars offense accorded for 1. And that's the biggest problem. Yes, Peterson could have had a bigger lead with a field goal, but I understand trying to go for it. This is a game that they didn't need to win necessarily. Their division sucks. The Giants need this win more than Jacksonville does. I think Jacksonville's farther away from true contention than New York is because, yes, Daniel Jones may not be the answer at the end of the day, but he's the answer right now. So credit to Dable for this offense being able to operate the way that it is, and whoever's coordinating on defense, I believe it's Wink Martindale. He's coaching his ass off with this unit. It helps whenever you get a top 5 tackle and a top 5 edge rusher in the same draft. But we're just seeing it. It's culture. The Jaguars had the worst culture in the NFL last year. Peterson comes in. He's helping, but it's a lot to make up for the damage Urban Meyer dealt last year. And as bad as the Giants were last year, Brian Dable has completely just manifested a different culture in-house, and we're seeing the effects. This team is playing not only for themselves, but for each other in a way that I don't think any other team in the league has currently. So the Giants have lightning in a bottle, and it's hard to beat, even on the other team's best day.
I just don't get it. I just feel like you have to take your points when they're handed to you like that. Every team is so polarizing this year. Everybody is so close in talent right now, especially in record, and just not taking your points when they're handed to you like that.
Yeah,
it just feels wrong to me. And I've continually seen it backfire, and it hasn't worked out a ton this season. Just the reward is great, but the high risk, and I get it, they were up at the time by 7, and maybe you're thinking you could hold the Giants back, but it just doesn't. Building a 2-score lead just feels so much safer in that situation rather than letting them tie it. Obviously, they didn't let them tie it, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I don't. It just frustrates me. Packer fans are frustrated. Taylor Heineke. Taylor freaking Heineke. My man didn't complete a pass on like the first 3 drives. Something like that. My man was not doing well at all. He went 20 for 33, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Brian Robinson, shout out to him for having a cool comeback story still. 20 carries, 73 yards. Antonio Gibson, 10 carries, half the carries, but plenty of yardage, 59. Terry McLaurin, 5 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. Antonio Gibson got a reception touchdown. But boy, what is happening to the Green Bay Packers? They have now lost a 4th game.
That eclipses the total of a single season in Matt LaFleur's entire coaching career. So it's bad. It's really bad. This is what happens whenever the front office kind of rests upon their laurels with a generational quarterback for 30 years. What the fuck did they expect? You went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and you have 2 Super Bowls to call your own. They're just not proactive. This is what happens whenever teams don't have an actual owner. You don't have somebody in the room that's going to say things that need to get done. It's a lot of complacency. This Packers team thought they were good enough to win it all last year, and their special team sucked. So they said, okay, well, we still have Aaron. We're not going to pay Devontae because you already paid Aaron Jones. Mind you, who we do not use, but we already paid Aaron Jones. And so we can just, Mod Podge together this receiving corps with Sammy Watkins on his 5th team at this point. Amari Rodgers, who's essentially a practice squad player on most NFL teams. The ghost of Bob Tonyan, rest in peace to his kneecap. Samori Toure, I've never heard that name in my entire life. Romeo Dobbs has been good for one of their draft picks. And once again, Christian Watson is not even appearing on the stat sheet. They could have had George Pickens in last year's draft. They elected to go with North Dakota State product because, it's an absolute NFL farm of guys like Carson Wentz. Need I say more? It's laughable. They spent all these years drafting backup quarterbacks and defensive players and just completely avoiding getting Aaron Rodgers a decent weapon outside of Devontae Adams. And the year that Devontae Adams leaves, their second best receiver, MBS, heads for Kansas City. So it's Allen Lazard versus the world. And for me, Allen Lazard, who got hurt. And as good as Aaron Rodgers is, he's not as good as he's ever been. Aaron Rodgers is on the decline. And on the decline does not mean he is washed. It does not mean he is bad. Aaron Rodgers is the most efficient quarterback we have arguably ever seen throw a ball. And it helps whenever you have talented receivers. And we're seeing that this year. The yards are down, the completions are down, and the touchdowns are down because there's just not the guys to get the ball to consistently. And whenever the offense isn't consistently operating, the defense consistently has to be on the field. And whoever's the coordinator over there, give it a week or two, they're probably fired because this defense is the highest underachieving unit in football. With the pieces they have and the pieces they attained in the draft on top of the players they have already retained throughout last season, they should be able to dominate teams. What Dallas is doing this year is what I expected out of Green Bay. Jair Alexander is a top 3 corner. I believe it's Preston Williams or is Preston Smith still on the team?
One of the Smiths.
But my point still remains. This is a
Russell
defense.
Douglas.
Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell was literally one of the best linebackers in football last year. Devontae Wyatt is a monster of an athlete. Kenny Clark, a great edge defender. Darnell Savage, great. Rashawn Gary is a name on this defense. There are too many talented players for this defense not to produce. And this is coming from a Chargers fan. We're hurt to hell, and our defense is not producing. But they're relatively healthy. And I just don't get it. I understand the offense not being the same, but Taylor Heineke putting up 23 on this defense is inexcusable.
Does the narrative that Tom Brady has that he's kind of stuck in the pocket now apply to Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers was more mobile than Tom Brady, I guess. But if we're going to give Brady a little bit of a grace period for his offensive line, the line he had to roll out with this week was absolutely god-awful. He has not had David Bakhtiari in what feels like 3 years. Rodgers' offensive line, for as bad as Brady's has been this year, is arguably worse. And Brady at least has weapons. Rodgers is playing with a drawer of silver spoons that are actually just silver-plated. Like, it's not comparable. Yeah. At least the Bucs have an offense. The Packers have the remnants of whatever they had 2 years ago.
Aaron Jones, 8 carries. A.J. Dillon, 4 carries.
Like, the Falcons are doing what the Packers should be doing, and the Packers are doing what the Falcons should be doing. Like, genuinely. Like, the Falcons don't have the defense to keep up with teams. The Packers do. The Packers should control the clock, feed their backs, sustain long drives. Aaron is good to get you 3rd and 5 and all these other things. The NFL is weird this year, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's wild. For the 5th straight time, the Tennessee Titans have beaten the Indianapolis Colts.
I almost picked the Colts, man. I almost did. I really almost did, and I'm happy I didn't. Because I said at the start of the year, I'm picking the Titans to win the division. The Colts have really fucked me over the last 2 years, and they're gonna continue to fuck themselves until Frank Reich is fired. Point blank. It's been too many years. Too little has been done in terms of the grand scheme. I'd fired the GM at this point, too. If I could fire Jim Irsay, I'd do that as well. But he's the owner, so you can't fire the owner. The Colts suck. And it's not an objective suck. Subjectively speaking, I hate the Indianapolis Colts. They do the same thing every year, expecting different results. Insert great running back. Insert quarterback we got for 25 cents on the dollar, but somehow overpaid. Insert receivers that we're not fully sure of. Insert defense. Defenses don't win games in the NFL today unless you're the Dallas Cowboys. That's the thing. In the NFL today, if you cannot produce a competent offense, you are going to be a terrible football team. And this Colts team is 3-3-1, which is even more surprising to me.
Starting quarterbacks under Frank Reich since 2018. Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett, Brian Hoyer, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. And on Sunday, Sam Ellinger. Ryan. Go for it.
Indianapolis genuinely should have been what Green Bay was in the NFC to the AFC. They went from Peyton freaking Manning to Andrew Luck. And they couldn't keep the dude healthy enough to stick around. Because I'm telling you right now, for all the praise, Mahomes, like Andrew Luck was the bridge between Manning, Brady, Mahomes. Brady's muffed that all up with him playing for 25 years. But Andrew Luck was the best guy of that next generation. As good as Mahomes is, as good as Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Andrew Luck was that guy. Out of all the quarterbacks we've seen come out of college with all the hype in the world, he lived up to it. And he retired because his body just couldn't keep doing it. And that's a failure of the organization of the Indianapolis Colts. And I genuinely think this is just sports karma coming their way. You were given literally dropped into your hands because of Peyton Manning needing neck surgery, the next great NFL star quarterback, and you wasted him. You wasted not only his early years, his entire prime or whatever was going to come after, because he'd stopped loving the game, because he was tired of being hurt.
Is he the best quarterback out of his draft class?
Yes.
The only other two that would have mattered, I just looked it up, would be Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson. They're the only two relevant quarterbacks to come out of that draft, because you're looking at Andrew Luck first overall, Robert Griffin second overall, Ryan Tannehill 8th overall, Brandon Weeden 22nd overall, Brock Osweiler at 57, Russell Wilson at 75, Nick Foles at 88, Kirk Cousins at 102, Ryan Lindley at 185, BJ Coleman at 240. You get the point.
Andrew Luck from the age of 23 till the age of 29 was a guaranteed essentially 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns, minus the year he got hurt. So we're going to compare Andrew Luck's career.
He has some pretty good running backs on top of that.
Oh, yeah. He was physically better than anybody else that came out around him. Like Russell Wilson, if Andrew Luck was given the Legion of Boom, he would have 2 Super Bowls. Guaranteed, Andrew Luck. Because Russell Wilson, to this date in his career, has 38,501 passing yards. So we compare that to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck played 6 seasons comparatively to 8, 9, 10, 11. So 5 extra years. 6. So 7 compared to 11. So 4 extra seasons. Russ has amassed 23,671 yards, 38,501.
So about 15,000 more.
About 15,000 more in 5 total seasons.
So little more than 3,000 yards a season. But if you're saying Andrew Luck is guaranteed 4,000 a season, then it's easy to say that Andrew Luck would be out throwing Russell Wilson right now.
Russ has 297 career touchdowns. Luck had 171. Russell Wilson's made a good career for himself. Andrew Luck was that guy. And it genuinely hurts me that we didn't get the full Andrew Luck career, because he's the biggest what if that the Colts are going to have in their franchise, because he was the heir apparent to Peyton Manning. And because for all the hype Trevor Lawrence has had throughout his NFL career and his college career, that was Andrew Luck before Lawrence ever even was thought of in the national spotlight. So, yeah, the Colts are paying for their sins. They wasted a good chunk of Manning's career. Not fully surrounding him is the wrong word. Brady existed, but the Colts have been a failure as a franchise.
That's always hard to say, because the reason why it's like the Yankees with the Astros. The Yankees have had good teams, but they can't get by the Astros, and Peyton Manning suffered the same fate. He got by Brady a couple times, but he couldn't always get by Brady, and that was the problem. Is that the AFC had another generational quarterback.
This is the life of the Indianapolis Colts. Whenever you don't have Johnny Unitas and you're not playing 6 teams a year, it's a lot more difficult. And it went from Brady to Manning to Luck to Mahomes to a certain extent. And now it's whoever the fuck's starting at quarterback to Ryan Tannehill, because the Titans own them. And I don't think it's just head coach. I don't think it's just roster. It's organization versus organization.
And the Colts turned the ball over 3 times. For the Titans, Derrick Henry, 30 carries, 128 yards, continues just to beat the crap out of the Colts.
Yep.
He owns the Colts. He literally owns the Colts. It is not particularly close. And Matt Ryan only threw for 132 yards, for crying out loud.
Now, Ryan Tannehill had 132. Matt Ryan had 243. But the 2 picks are killer. One was a pick 6. Jonathan Taylor had 10 carries in this game.
That's a joke.
It genuinely makes
yards.
No sense.
He's averaging 6 yards a carry.
Exactly.
And I don't even think he has the receptions.
Yep. No. 7 receptions for 27 yards. 17 touches for Jonathan Taylor in a game like this. If you want to beat the Titans, you got to fight fire with fire.
Derrick Henry got 30 carries, and look who won.
The best players have to have the ball.
There you go. It's that simple.
You give the ball to Jonathan Taylor 10 more times. Maybe there's one less pick for the Matt Ryan adjacent quarterback because Tannehill didn't throw a pick, and it comes down to turnovers. But
Yeah.
we're done on that. Sorry.
Josh Jacobs annihilated the Houston Texans. That's pretty much all I got to say. There's not a whole lot here. The Raiders are supposed to win this game. Josh Jacobs is absolutely on a nuts tear right now. 20 carries, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, 8 catches for 95 yards. Hunter Renfrow, 3 catches for 55 yards. Mac Hollins got a touchdown. Darren Waller was out again. And I mean, the Raiders gave up 20 points to the Texans, but whatever. Josh Jacobs eclipsed that himself. Josh Jacobs is on a nuts tear right now that we haven't even really seen, and I did not realize. Kind of blew my mind when I saw this. I feel like Josh Jacobs has been in the league forever. He's 24 years old.
No, yeah, Josh Jacobs is literally insanely young. And the thing is, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So this guy's playing for a contract. Josh Jacobs does not care if the Raiders win games.
Earning it hard.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, he has all the pedigree of all the backs that we've loved over the last 10 years, aside from like Trent Richardson and Eddie Lacy. Alabama running backs usually translate. There's a reason why Najee Harris is so heralded in that Steelers offense, regardless of his efficiency. Josh Jacobs is that dude. He was drafted in the first round. He was one of the last first-round running backs taken besides CEH. There's a reason why he went so early. The Raiders believed in him. Yeah. John Gruden believed in him. Nobody believes in John Gruden anymore, so that's kind of Josh Jacobs' problem is running back is replaceable, but they finally found a guy that I feel like isn't so much replaceable, and they're ready to replace him. Jacobs played his heart out. I thought Carr got knocked out early. Apparently he didn't, but yeah. He
took a big hit, was out for a play, and came right back.
Good for Derek. But yeah, that's the thing. It sucks for the Raiders because they end up getting into these shootouts. But if you have Josh Jacobs running the ball like he did, you're not going to have to shoot out that bad because you're going to be able to control the rock.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all what it takes to win. They didn't win time of possession by much, but hey, they won it. They only faced 9 third downs all day. They were 4 for 9. Only allowed 1 sack and only 5 penalties for 44 yards. So when the Raiders aren't getting 15 penalties for 800 yards, they're in a good spot.
Yep.
Speaking of not being in a good spot, neither of these teams are. Well, the Jets are technically in a good spot, but Breece Hall, it has been confirmed, torn ACL, out for the season.
Yep.
One of the most dynamic running backs of this season really came out and showed he was going to be RB1.
4 carries, 72 yards, 1 touchdown before the injury. 18 yards a carry. Breece Hall was everything he was promised to be, and then some. Football is a dangerous sport. Football is a very violent sport, and it's never more apparent than on Sundays. The Broncos suck. Brett Rypien put up numbers that Russell Wilson would wish he had for $200 million less. It is difficult for me to look at this Jets win and think of it as a win. I think the Jets at 5-2 are probably in the worst spot they've been in the entire season because even with Breece Hall going down, they also lost Elijah Vera Tucker for the entire year with the torn triceps. Any momentum they had is now effectively gone. Zach Wilson is not winning this team games. The offensive line, Breece Hall, and the defense were keeping them in games and winning them. And this was the last chance. If Breece stays healthy, Vera Tucker going down really hurts. But Breece adds that element to where they can actually be dynamic enough to compete with top teams. Now they're back to where they started this season. A young team with some interesting weapons and a lack of identity. Because Michael Carter is good, and we said before, James Robinson is now a New York Jet. There's a reason why he was expendable. Travis Etienne is a better player. Breece Hall is a better player. Michael Carter at this point is arguably a better player than James Robinson. Coming off of the Achilles, I commend him for that. But over the last couple of weeks, he has not looked nearly as explosive as he did to start the year. And if he's not going to separate, there's no need for the Jets to have
0 touches on Sunday.
Which could be the fact that they this team could have been like, well, you know, we don't want to throw him out there because we have him in a trade. That might have been a part of why he didn't have any touches because they had a deal in mind Never mind. That wouldn't make sense because Breece Hall was healthy. I digress. Robinson will be interesting. He's going to get carries. How effective he will be, I don't know. I have low expectations. Averaging less than 3 yards a carry on the Jags. And with no Vera Tucker, that offensive line just got considerably worse. Their defense is their only hope now, and I'm hoping Salah has something up his sleeve because Zach Wilson doesn't. 121 yards, 16 for 26. He's not relatively accurate, and he's not throwing touchdowns. Not much else I can say about the Jets. Melvin Gordon had 11 carries, but Latavius Murray is a sniper, also known as my friend Jordan Howard. It's tough. It sucks.
To me, it is not particularly close that regardless of record, the Broncos are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and it's pathetic. They don't have first round picks. They don't have first. You look at like a lot of bad teams right now. The Browns don't have their first round pick. They're 2-5. The Saints don't have their first round pick. They're 2-5. The Broncos don't have their first round pick. They're 2-5. You mortgage the future, and the future is bleak. Russell Wilson didn't play because of a bad hamstring, but it felt like an upgrade. Right, and didn't turn the ball over. And that's all that really mattered there. He went 24 for 46, which is not great, but he at least kept him in the game the whole time. I feel like Nathaniel Hackett still has to get 17 games under his belt, but boy, it does not look good.
I don't think Hackett needs to get more than 7 games under his belt at this point. The season's cooked. I just don't get it. And I hope teams learn to stop hiring the wonder kid coordinators that have either anytime a unit of your command has a generational talent, you are not going to be what we thought you were. Even Brandon Staley in Los Angeles, and it sucks to say it, having Aaron Donald makes your defenses look a lot better than they might be. Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey covered a lot of holes. And Hackett having Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and fucking Devontae Adams. You get what I'm saying? These wonder kid coordinators aren't super wonder kid head coaches. They are who we thought they were.
The burning question on everybody's mind. Can Christian McCaffrey play in the secondary, please?
So,
a second, a third, a fourth, and then a 24th for Christian McCaffrey. Now I get it. He came in a day and a half before the game, so he wasn't going to be a whole lot. But you gave up 44 points. McCaffrey is not going to get you 21 to make this a game. Your secondary is not healthy. Getting Christian McCaffrey wasn't really the problem. You didn't really fix any problems. Did you get a better offense? Sure. But this team still isn't designed to play in shootouts. And they're going to get their asses kicked every day like this.
So the Niners' biggest problem isn't even their secondary. It's their quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is not good. He's resulted in 2 safeties, and he's started in, I believe, 4 games for this team. The Niners' secondary is not optimal currently, but their health has been suboptimal since the start of the season. I think they can improve in the secondary, and I believe that they will. Hufanga has been a breath of fresh air at safety for them in a way that I didn't expect coming into his rookie year. Javarius Ward had a rough game. The Chiefs rostered him for the last 4 years, so I would think they would know how to attack him. So, while yes, the secondary was rough, it's a week where I expected them to be rough. Even before McCaffrey got traded, this team was going to lose by 15, maybe 20. The Chiefs are the best team in the AFC right now, and that's even with the Bills operating the way that they're operating. This Kansas City team is just better than everybody else in the AFC, and I'm not sure how close it generally is. Mahomes is the generational talent at quarterback in the AFC. In the NFL, he is the guy. MVP, Super Bowl MVP, perennial All-Pro. Like, he just does it. He goes out there and he wins games. He tied Ken Stabler, I believe, for the most wins within 70 starts of a career. Like, he is going to be the pacer for every other great we have after him. Mahomes is the litmus test. Isaiah Pacheco started this game, had the most carries out of the backfield. CEH got the touchdown. Mecole Hardman had 2 of them. So, punch the air. Juju and MVS, they're hard covers. And Travis Kelce had 98 yards. The Chiefs are just a better offensive unit, and defensively, it would take the Berlin Wall to stop them. And even with Fred Warner, even with Nick Bosa, this Niners team was playing with house money in this matchup. Trent Williams just came back. There were a couple of plays where Frank Clark made him look really slow off of the injury. The Niners shouldn't hang their head too low. The Chiefs are pacing the AFC and the Niners are pacing the NFC West. So it's like the Niners can afford to drop a game to the best team in the league. They can learn from this, and I think they're going to be better off because of it. But it's just a bad showing for them.
For me now, this isn't going to be the last bad showing. They play the Rams next week, and they've owned the Rams over the regular season. Then they get a bye. And I'm not sure who they play after that, but they don't own their first-round pick. They don't own their second-round pick. So they could catch up with the Seahawks. That's not the problem. But you have a guy who unfortunately went down, so you have no idea what you got. So we're going to have another offseason of outing Jimmy. I'm ready for it. Whether they trade him, whether they throw him in the trash, I don't know what they're going to do with Jimmy because they almost have to throw Trey Lance out there next year, and having Christian McCaffrey next to him is going to be great, and having the playmakers that he has is going to be great. But this doesn't feel like a Super Bowl team now. They got embarrassed.
I disagree. I genuinely disagree. As good as the NFC is at spots, the Seahawks are still a worse team than the Niners currently. I get it. I understand. Their defense has been banged up. Their offense is super sporadic, and that's a huge problem. Getting a guy in Christian McCaffrey to pair with a Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is going to transform this offense in ways that we genuinely didn't expect. Kyle Shanahan has turned anybody into a starting running back in the NFL. He now has the premier starting running back in the NFL over the last 5 years in fantasy football. If McCaffrey stays on the field, I think this is one of the most dynamic offensive units in all of football. And Jimmy sucks at having to not go past his first read. Jimmy is not good whenever it comes to the play breaking down and him having to hit somebody that isn't who he was expecting.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's a safety valve. You have three guys in this offense now that can effectively get open and be a safety valve. McCaffrey, Debo, and George Kittle are one of the nastiest trios in all of weapons in the NFL. And if they're going to be on the field, I think this team has a shot to beat anybody any given week, especially in the NFC. Their defense is better than Seattle's. Their offense is arguably better. Geno is outplaying Jimmy by miles. It's going to come down to Shanahan. Shanahan's going to have to grow up this season. Shanahan has not won a game. He's like 1-40 in games where he's trailing by 3 in the fourth quarter or more. So it's time for Shanahan to grow up because at this point, you have the roster, you have the players. I don't care if it's Jimmy. You got to figure it out because it's year 6 of the Shanahan thing, and he's had like 2 winning seasons. With the talent he's assembled and the talent he's had, John Lynch has not failed him. It's going to come down to him making the right calls and coaching this team up because Jimmy is who you have and Jimmy is what you will have until next season. So make the most of it. There's a reason why they signed him. So just stay the course. You got your running back. You have your pieces on offense, and the defense is better than it was last year. So they just have to commit. But I think the Niners are still in the thick of it. I like them more than Tampa Bay. I like them more than Los Angeles. I think they are the favorite for this division, and I think on any given Sunday they can compete with Dallas, New York, and even Philadelphia.
And for the Chiefs, good job.
Par for the course.
Yeah. All right, friendo. Go off.
Oh, we suck, dude. We're cursed. That's point blank period. Chargers are going to Charger. It sucks. Every week I wake up and think, could it be worse? Yeah, it really can. J.C. Jackson done for the year. Mike Evans done for the next 6 weeks. High ankle sprain. We lost the starting left tackle. Yeah, Mike Williams.
If you had Mike Evans, that'd be dope.
Yeah, Mike Williams is done for like probably 4 to 6 weeks. Super bad high ankle sprain. Herbert's had broken ribs or fractured rib cartilage since week 3. Eckler is the only bright spot on this team, and the only bright spot is his 12 receptions for 100 yards. He's on pace for 138 catches at the running back spot. We had at one point on the field DeAndre Carter, Michael Bandy, and Jason Moore as our 3 receivers. Michael Bandy's a practice squad player that we elevated because we can't roster players that can actually see the field. Keenan Allen finally suited up. First time in God knows how long. It's super frustrating. I hate to say it, but this Charger season feels like it's over before it actually started. This is the single best roster the Chargers have had since arguably the early 2010s, late aughts. Every piece was in place aside from the fact that our offensive coordinator treats Herbert like he's a prime Drew Brees, and our defense is still the worst against the run, and we cannot stay healthy. For everything that could be counted into this season, the health has betrayed us every step of the way. And even with health, this team is probably 5-2. We're 4-3 going into the bye week, which, yes, I could be over the moon. We're over 500, which is something that I expected us to be at. Just the way that we've gotten here is extremely concerning. And I don't see how I can perceive this team as a true contender in the AFC moving forward, because it's one step forward, 4 steps back. We lost our left tackle for the entire year. We had back-to-back games. Our starting centers out in Lindsley due to an illness. And now we lost our best perimeter defender and one of our best perimeter weapons, all in like a quarter and a half of football. As good as Herbert is, as much as I like to believe in Staley, this season feels lost. And here's hoping we can run it back next year, because just with the health this year, it feels genuinely improbable. And I called the Chargers as my Super Bowl favorite because at start of the year, on paper, fully healthy, I think this team could compete with anybody. But with the injuries, we're no more than what we were last year. But Herbert's a bit more banged up, and our weapons are far worse off.
Yeah.
But shout out Kenneth Walker, by the way. I don't want to like poop on him. Like, he is the real deal. The Chargers defense sucks, but that guy can play.
I feel like he's going to put Penny out of a job at this point. It's not Penny's fault.
Penny's a free agent after this year.
Oh, yeah. He definitely put Penny out of a job then as a Seahawk. Austin Eckler's killing it, though. 12 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Mike Williams got a touchdown, but he's going to be out for a bit. The bye week, I think, comes at a perfect time for you, because I think Keenan Allen was on a pitch count. So another week to heal up the hamstrings, and hopefully he comes out guns a-blazing the week after. Another week for Justin Herbert to heal up. Austin Eckler's been killing it, so some rest for him will be nice. But yeah, you had to play from behind all game. You didn't get to run the ball a whole lot. Seahawks, Geno Smith still ain't writing back. I mean, he didn't have that outstanding of a game, but 210, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Kenneth Walker, 23 carries, 168, 2 touchdowns. They did what they – I wouldn't say they did what they were supposed to do, because obviously the Chargers were favored in this, but they're surprising a lot of people, and they still own a top pick because Denver sucks so bad. So I don't know. I feel like at some point later in the season, we're going to be talking about placing Geno Smith, because I feel like this can't keep up for me. So it'll be interesting to see what we're thinking their draft picks are going to be next year as the season winds down. Because obviously they have a great running back. They have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But drafting a young quarterback might not be a bad idea if you have a top 5 pick, but we'll see.
They're not going to have a top 5 pick is the problem. Actually, Seattle might have one, because Denver's full on danger. They're really danger. They're feeling dangerous right now out in Seattle, because that draft pick gets better each and every week. So they could make the playoffs and still have a shot, or an outside shot, at a CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, or even one of these other guys coming out of this draft. So Seattle,
if they're on the outside of the top 10, Hendon Hooker might be there. Might be their guy.
Could even fortify the defense and just keep giving Geno these 1-year, 2-year deals.
True.
Because Geno's the perfect bridge for what Seattle's going to want to become. Yeah. Like, all their weapons are relatively young besides Tyler Lockett. Like, DK's just fresh off of his second contract, and they just got Charles Cross was the one that they got in the draft at tackle.
Think so?
Yeah. They really rebounded well off this Jamal Adams trade, because that thing set them back 5 years, and now the Russ trade just set them back to present day.
Is Jamal Adams out for the year? I feel like I heard his name.
Broke his leg week 1.
Oh, jeez.
He got carted off. It sucked.
Oh, God, this game drove me nuts a little bit.
The towels are terrible, and so are the defenders' hands. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Kenny Pickett threw 3 picks, and some of them were really bad. One of them, Chase Claypool, fell, so I can't get on him about that one. But Kenny Pickett turned the ball over at a bad rate, and they still only lost by 6. 4 drop interceptions by the Steelers defense.
Yep.
Mike McDaniels in opponent zone in like the 20, 4th, 3rd and 1, ran it, lost 2 yards. 4th and 3, ran it again, got stuffed. What?
David Chase Edmonds for a 4th and 3.
I don't. This is exactly what I was saying about Jacksonville. What? Like Mike McDaniels? What are you doing? At least throw the ball to one of your playmakers, or just take the points. Miami could have ran away with this game because they kept dropping picks, because the Steelers could not force a turnover. They were almost forcing them, but they just couldn't finish off their end of the bargain. And the Steelers only lost by 6. The Steelers are bad. I see now how they beat the Bucs because the Panthers beat the crap out of the Bucs. But Tua's first game back, he took 2 big hits as he was running and kind of just lowered his shoulder. That shit's terrifying. Off a man who had a really bad concussion. I don't know what he was thinking there. I mean, but the addiction of competitiveness, I guess. Threw the ball 35 times, 21 completions, 261 and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert's really fast. 16 carries for 79 yards. He's so fast.
Off of that injury, that's impressive for Raheem as well, because he's kind of up there in terms of age for a starting running back.
I'm not gonna lie, it does drive me nuts a little bit to see Jalen Waddle have more yards, but way less targets than Tyreek Hill.
That's how it's always going to work. That's how it's always going to work.
It's just the way the offense works when Tyreek Hill exists. But they're both such good wide receivers. I feel like they could put up 200 yards each every week.
Yep. It's an ugly game through and through. It's what Sunday Night Football is all about. Any primetime game this year is about ugly football. Good for Tua for coming back. Good on them for scoring enough in the first half to really not have to worry about losing this game. Second half, I turned it off. I didn't miss anything because they didn't score a single point in the second half. Mike McDaniel has this team at 4-3, and that's going to be good enough for them to I think this is probably a wild card team in Miami if Tua stays healthy the rest of the way. The defense is good enough to get it done in terms of stints, and the offense is explosive enough to really compete with anybody. So once Tua gets back into action and he's fully able to capitalize upon what we're able to see out of him, I think we're going to be in a really good spot. So kudos to the Dolphins, Jalen Waddle to the moon, and Tyreek, keep up the good work because I have him rostered in one league as well. And Ramondre Stevenson, just hold on to the ball, my friend. That's all I ask.
Can we just quickly talk about how the Bears are winning 33-14 in Foxborough right now?
It works out beautifully for me. I'm playing my wife in a league, and she's playing my dad in a different one. And if the Patriots defense didn't capsize all these points, she would have lost both games because Ramondre Stevenson has put me over the top against her in one league. And he also Ramondre's won me about like 4 leagues in this single game, regardless of how the Patriots played. So much success. Very nice. I'll take it.
They're getting run all over, though. That's the thing. Like, Patriots are not looking good today at all.
The conditions are very bad.
Agreed.
Nice dump off. I'll take a free point. To be fair,
Mac Jones was quickly pulled.
I think it's a bit unfair. Well, they're not going to pull Zappe to throw Jones back out there. I think it was just, okay, Jones isn't doing anything, and Zappe, after the first 2 drives, has been useless. So I think Jones will probably start next week. Or we'll see Zappe start, and then Jones will come in relief. I think the Patriots don't have a quarterback controversy here. I think they're both ridiculously average, which is the worst place to be. Zappe's played good in spots.
Are they playing baseball now? You got your starter go about 2.5 quarters, and you bring in the reliever for the rest. Is that the Bill Belichick way now?
This New England team it just reeks of like slightly above average, and that's not going to get you anywhere in the AFC this year. Kudos to Eberflus and the Bears. Every week I want to talk some shit about him, and I genuinely can't. Justin Fields over
3-4 at the end of this.
Over 20 attempts for Fields tonight. I like that. 13 carries for 83 yards and a score for Justin Fields. It works. kudos to the Bears for an impressive performance on Monday night. I still don't like them to make the playoffs because their division is just good.
Yeah.
Even though the Packers suck, the Vikings are the best team in the NFC North, and the Lions could play anybody tough. The Bears have some nice foundational pieces. Eberflus is doing what I expected Hackett to be able to do in Denver, if that makes sense.
And Eberflus has a whole lot less.
A whole lot
less.
But yeah, that's this week's outcomes. But how are we feeling about next week's games, Austin? We should probably run through these.
Ravens, Bucs.
Going Ravens.
Tampa Bay.
I'm going Ravens. John Harbaugh has gotten cute the last couple of weeks. The Buccaneers are without a paddle, which is why they probably should win this game. But
yeah, it feels like that. It feels like both these teams have not looked good at all. Even in their wins, they've felt a little sluggish. But after seeing Tampa Bay now lose 4 straight, Brady's begging for anything, and it's just not working out for him. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens blew another 10-point lead and lose on Thursday night. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens too. They just look slightly better than Tampa Bay to set a bar real low. Broncos, Jaguars.
I cannot pick the Broncos in good faith to even beat Alabama at this point. Give me the Jaguars. The Broncos suck, and I don't think Russ is back, and I don't think Nathaniel Hackett ever actually landed in Denver. His head's still in Green Bay. The Broncos suck.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jags too. The Jags look good. They arguably should have possibly beaten the Giants. They probably should have beaten the Colts the second time. They've been on the cusp of some wins, and the Broncos have looked bad. I think Russ is playing, but that just doesn't change anything for me. Dolphins, Lions.
Dolphins. As good as the Lions skill guys are, and as bad as that defense is, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle might combine for 400 yards in this game. And DeAndre Swift playing will complicate it. It could be a shootout. But, man, as much as I love Dan Campbell, he's really given me a lot of reasons to dislike him this season. They're just not making the right calls in the right spots, and it costs them a lot of matchups. And McDaniel gets a little squirrely, but the Dolphins have the better defense. Perimeter guys, they're better on offense. Swift needs to play, and he'll have to have a huge game for Detroit to be in it within 3 quarters. So give me the Dolphins. It'll take less for them.
If you're looking at the worst defense in the league, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle should have a whale of a time.
Bailey Zappi also just cemented himself as probably the backup to Mac Jones with another interception to the Bears. He is going through it, and the Patriot is down. Wow. Speaking of being down, I'm not down to watch this game. Panthers versus Falcons, Austin. I'm picking the Falcons because the thing is, after your coach gets fired and you get that win, you're due for a hangover. PJ Walker's already confirmed to be the starter, and Arthur Smith sets the tone. It might be tone deaf some weeks, but I just like Atlanta. They put up some points against the Bengals, which is a very opportunistic defense. The Panthers put up points against the ghost of Tampa Bay. So I like momentum, but I do think the Falcons are a better team than the Panthers. And I think defensively they can hold the Panthers offense in a way. And it's a gut feeling. I'm picking the Falcons.
I don't want to pick any of these teams. I wrote the Falcons. I'm going to stick with the Falcons.
And for that reason, the Panthers will win.
Correct. That is exactly how this works. And Phillip Walker's going to throw for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Little did we know Christian McCaffrey was holding the Panthers back the whole time. DJ Moore got a touchdown this week.
Yeah, I told everybody in our fantasy football start-sit show, I'm like, DJ Moore is the only guy in this offense. Robbie Anderson's in Arizona. Christian McCaffrey's in California. There's no other option.
Cardinals, Vikings.
I think Kevin O'Connell could kick Cliff Kingsbury's ass in a fist fight, so I'm going to go with the Vikings.
I mean, the only thing Cliff Kingsbury is ever going to win in is a nice house contest. That's about it. That's all Cliff Kingsbury has going for him. Kyler was yelling at his ass on Thursday.
Yeah. Kyler was screaming at him like he was in a COD lobby. It was intense. So, yeah, I love Kyler Murray, and Kirk Cousins doesn't show up all the time, but I don't think it's going to take a whole lot from Kurt to beat up on this Cardinals defense because Andy Dalton laced him up for like 400 yards. Justin Jefferson's going to eat. Dalvin Cook's going to eat. And it's in Minnesota. It's coming off the bye week. This is as fresh as they're going to be moving forward. They have to win this game.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody say that the Cardinals are 0-10, their last 10 in Minnesota, and Call of Duty releases on Friday. So I will also pick the Vikings. Give me DeAndre Hopkins for 27 targets, 22 catches for 300 yards.
Give me 22 catches for 56 yards and 2 scores. Speaking of
Bears,
a lot of catches,
Cowboys.
After this game, the Bears might have a chance.
Stop.
I'm kidding. The Cowboys have to win this game. If Dak loses to the Bears on Sunday of this coming week, Cooper Rush is going to have people storming the Capitol. It's going to be that bad. The Rushaholics are going to be banging on Jerry's door saying, "Let the man play." Yeah, the Cowboys defense is better than both of these defenses combined, and the offense isn't even comparable.
For my sanity of my own fan base, we have to win this game.
The Cowboys cannot lose this game.
They can't. It'll absolutely annihilate Dak's reputation if he has another bad game.
It's a trap game. If calling trap games could be the correct term. Like, this feels like a trap game. The Bears could definitely play their way into a competitive matchup because I didn't expect them to beat the Patriots. So the Cowboys have to win it. I'm picking the Cowboys to win it, but the Bears are feisty. The Bears are weird. They're playing more like I thought Detroit would this year.
Raiders, Saints.
Give me the Raiders. The Saints are beaten all to hell. Dennis Allen is not Sean Payton, and Josh McDaniels sucks, but I don't think Taysom Hill is going to beat Derek Carr.
Yeah, Taysom Hill, 12 carries, 397 yards, 5 touchdowns.
And
Saints
a PAT.
lose. And a PAT. Saints lose 56 to 45.
Because for all the shit I give Derek Carr, for week 1 where he threw 3 picks against the Chargers, Andy Dalton's going to match him. Like, if we're being honest, the Raiders who haven't – I think Josh Jacobs continues to just add zeros to that check he's going to get in the offseason in this game because – they're beat up. If Lattimore's not playing, I'm terrified for the Saints because Devontae Adams is shoving down camera guys and taking names. He cleared the walkway after the game this week. He didn't want to get in trouble. But, Vegas has some momentum, and I don't think they're going to lose it against a Saints team that can't seem to get anything going.
Steelers, Eagles.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Especially if Kenny Pickett's the guy throwing the ball around. They have a lot of weapons. And Kenny Pickett just can't seem to find the end zone with him. And with James Bradbury and Darius Slay on the perimeter, I don't expect anybody to catch balls besides the Eagles, including defensively. I think Pickett throws 2 more picks in this matchup, and I think the Eagles win by 14.
Remember when the Steelers were 11-0 and then they lost to Washington during the COVID year? If the Eagles somehow find a way to lose to the Steelers, it will not surprise me in the slightest because the season has just made 0 sense.
Yeah.
But I'm picking the Eagles. Honestly, looking at the Eagles' schedule, I don't know when I'm going to pick them to lose. It feels like they have to lose at some point, but I don't know when I'm going to pick them to lose. Probably against Dallas. I kind of have to. But yeah, pick the Eagles. Patriots, Jets. God, that
Breece Hall and Vera Tucker going down has me leaning to the New England Patriots. There's one thing I've learned. The Jets don't have fun against New England. And Bill Belichick's still there. And the heart and soul of their offense just left in like 2 quarters of football. So as bad as the Pats look tonight, I genuinely feel that they have as good of a shot to beat the Jets as the Jets have to beat them. And in a close matchup, I'll take Coach.
Yeah. I'll also pick the Patriots. Titans, Texans. Titans.
Derrick Henry's
going against Titans going against one of the worst run defenses in the league. Sign me up. Giants, Seahawks.
I'm going the Giants. I think you're probably going to go Seahawks. But the thing is, the Seahawks are speed up on the Chargers, and all credit to them. The Chargers are one of the most injury-riddled teams in the league, and their defense sucks. The Giants' defense plays really well, and I don't know if the Seahawks – like, obviously, the Giants' perimeter weapons are not good right now. Slayton and Wandale Moore or Wan'Dale Robinson are like two of their top receivers. Saquon Barkley is the best player at a skill position in that game. It's going to come down to Kenneth Walker versus Saquon Barkley. Who can be the X factor? I like Saquon over Kenneth, and I think the Giants defense does enough to win this game. I also like to bowl a hell of a lot more than Pete Carroll.
I mean, I'm going to pick the Giants. I know they're going to let me down, but I'm going to pick the Giants. I just feel like they're too hot right now. They make second half adjustments really well. And like you said, Brian Dable over Pete Carroll.
Battle of the backups.
Commanders, Colts.
Battle of the backups. Ellinger versus Taylor Heineke. I think I'm siding Commanders. There's not a single thing the Colts do that makes me think they're going to beat anybody. You know what? I'm going to go Colts. I'll give them one last week because I'm not going to put too much into the fact that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers suck. Ellinger could just be a breath of fresh air. He has legs. He can run it. He's dynamic. And Jonathan Taylor is a far better player than Brian Robinson.
That's where I'm at. I'm picking Jonathan Taylor over everybody else.
And the Colts defense can play football. The Colts defense is actually good. They effectively held Tennessee to 12 points because Matt Ryan gave them a free 7. So, I apologize, Frank Reich. You guys are better than Ron Rivera and the Commanders. So, give me the Colts.
Niners, Rams.
I want to hear your thoughts because I'm torn.
I went with it early in the season. With the regular season curse is not broken. It's the Niners. They just know.
I'm picking the Niners as well because it's the first full week of CMC, and the Rams concern me a lot. Cooper Kupp is an automatic 100 yards and a touchdown, but outside of him, there's no identity. Stafford's elbow scares me. He keeps throwing 2 picks a game. Donald is great, but outside of him and Ramsey, the defense hasn't been producing, and Cam Akers isn't going to touch the ball. So you give me a full workload of McCaffrey. You give me Garoppolo not making mistakes and a healthier Niners defense. There's no reason to not pick the Niners. They are still the best team in the division, even though the Rams are Super Bowl champions. They added a piece to get better, and I think it's going to only get better with more and more reps.
Packers, Bills.
I'm picking the Bills. Picking the Packers in this game would just be sacrilegious.
It's not really close.
This is the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career that he's a 10-point underdog ever, or double-digit underdog. The Bills are favored by 10, and it's not a fluke. I think the Packers can make it interesting. Romeo Doubs could have 2 touchdowns.
They're in Buffalo, too. So
Aaron Jones could have one of those games, but I don't think Josh Allen lets them lose this game. I think that's the aspect that I'm going to.
I just watched a sandwich of Justin Fields earlier. That looked painful. Last one.
Hits.
Bengals. Okay.
after what I saw them do to the Falcons, and after what I saw the Browns do against that Ravens secondary, I have far more faith in what the Bengals have going on than what the Browns can have going. Burrow is on an absolute tear, and the defense is not hemorrhaging, which is what they need to happen in order for them to win the division and push for the playoffs. So, the Bengals are a tier above the Browns.
All right. That's going to do it. I don't think we split at all. No splits this week. And I finally finished it out. Let's see. Where did I put it? Let's see. Devin, this season you are 49-42 with a tie. And I am 48-43 with a tie. Nobody's gaining ground this week, but we're right half the time. And in this season, that counts for a lot. This is how I
win. This is how I win. I just go chalk with you the rest of the way. I'm kidding.
Oh, you're picking the underdog? I will also pick the underdog.
Smart man.
All right.
Smart man.
All right. Obviously, we're exclusively on YouTube now, so like the video, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Interact with us. We'll interact with you back. It's just that easy. Sunday mornings, you can either catch us here on YouTube doing Fantasy Start and Sit, or, if we're not up to it, we'll be on Twitter with Fantasy Start and Sit. So we always got that covered for you. We got a nice link for some exclusive discounts on some merch, so you can search through it. It'll show you where it applies. Obviously, it doesn't apply to everything. That would be dope if it did, but it's not how it works. So check the link in the description of the video. Hit that link, support us, all that jazz. Devin?
Yeah, no. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I'm going to port this audio over to Spotify if you don't have the bandwidth or phone battery to deal with a YouTube stream of 2 hours in length. So don't forget to follow us, and don't forget to follow our Spotify feed at TMSM, the Makeshift Managers Podcast. We upload every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. So as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening to us blabber about Bailey Zappi throwing his fourth interception of the game. Should have been a pick six. It's rough out here for the Patriots. It's rough out here for my team. Austin's team is streaking. Bear down, I guess. But I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday. We appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to use that code. And if you got nothing else, Austin, it's time for the final word. Peace.